Welcome back. You are watching Global Eye. Let's shift focus to the Israel-Hamas war. Yes, we are tracking the very latest that has happened there on the ground. Remember, the United Nations Human Rights Council has adopted a resolution calling for Israel to be held accountable for war crimes in Gaza. The council has also demanded a halt to all arms sales to Israel, citing warnings of genocide in its war on Gaza. Meanwhile, reports have said that Israeli forces fired tear gas at worshippers who were protesting against the war at Al-Aqsa Mosque. More than 33,000 Palestinians have been killed so far, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. On the other hand, Israel has promised to take new steps to increase humanitarian aid in Gaza. The Israeli cabinet approved the reopening of the Erez crossing that will connect Israel and northern Gaza. This will help civilians in the area to get more access to humanitarian aid. The move comes after US President Joe Biden issued a stern warning to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to protect civilians and aid workers in the region. In a phone conversation, Biden gave Netanyahu an ultimatum, citing that if Israel doesn't comply, then the Biden administration will stop providing aid to Israel in its fight with the Hamas. The ultimatum comes after Israel accidentally killed 7 aid workers who were delivering food and other supplies to Gaza civilians earlier this week.
Despite important steps that Israel has taken to allow assistance into Gaza, the results on the ground are woefully insufficient and unacceptable. President Biden spoke a short while ago with Prime Minister Netanyahu. He underscored as well that an immediate ceasefire is essential to stabilize and improve the humanitarian situation and protect innocent civilians, and he urged Prime Minister Netanyahu to empower his negotiators to conclude a deal without delay.
Joining me now to take this forward is Anil Trigunayat, former Indian ambassador to Libya and Jordan, also distinguished fellow at Vivekananda International Foundation, also Vail Awad, political analyst and West Asia expert. Ambassador Trigunayat, let me begin by asking you, do you think Biden here is serious when he is telling Netanyahu that either you reduce civilian deaths, either you mend your ways in terms of the way you're carrying out this war, or you risk a change in US policy towards Israel?
Well, I think that it has taken them 6 months to be serious about this war and the casualties that are occurring there. I mean, but at the moment, there are many factors for this. You see, there has to be a certain limit to the patience, even for the country that is supporting blindly the Israeli actions, or not only Israeli actions, I would say more importantly of Prime Minister Netanyahu's approach and his strategy, which has failed to deliver any goods for them, what he wanted basically. So I think that this is very clear, and the whole world is asking for relief. When people are being killed, the humanitarian supplies, there was a hope for the Ramadan ceasefire. That has not happened. In the bargain, we are hearing from all kinds of stories, whether it is for the killing of the journalists, whether killing of the UN personnel, not allowing the UN agencies to come with the relief supplies. So this is something that is unacceptable in this. And on the other hand, this bogey of continuing to succeed against Hamas, or as you see the statements, I think is no longer cutting much ice with the Americans. I mean, that's very clear now. All the shuttle diplomacy that Blinken has done, whatever talks. I mean, if you remember, even, I mean, let's give the devil his due. I mean, Biden, in the first meeting when he visited Tel Aviv, he had told Netanyahu that these kind of wars, just don't get into it. Be very careful. And so, but Netanyahu, he has to show to the world that he can punish the people and teach them a lesson, basically, while trying to destroy the Hamas, which is still fighting, and they're negotiating with them for some kind of a deal. So I think that now, under this kind of pressure, because I always believe that the only country that has the capacity to control or pressure Netanyahu is the United States, which has until now failed, because they vetoed a lot of resolutions at the UN Security Council. It's only last one that they basically just abstained. And even there, they were playing footsie by saying it is not binding.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think that is something that has now clearly come to bite them. Secondly, we must see the elections in the US. Now, his ratings are as such very low. Secondly, the Arab lobbies there have become far more stronger in the region. Jewish lobby is the strongest, no doubt. But then there is Arab League. The youth, I mean, there were some surveys. The American youth is no longer supportive of this war which is going on of Israel. So I think that he has to see his own election scenario also
Okay.
for the Democratic Party. So all these factors have brought
Right.
him to the right conclusion, and I hope that this will try to have some kind of a ceasefire at the earliest. Of course, Hamas has to also yield on its part of
Right.
the bargain.
You know, Ambassador Jagannath, also a lot of people are saying that the proof of the pudding will be when we see restrictions on the supply of arms and ammunition from US to Israel. And President Biden actually stopped short of saying that or dropping that threat in his conversation with Netanyahu. But let me go across to Vailabad. Vailabad, do you think we are near achieving the goal of an immediate ceasefire, release of hostages? The reason being, there is an imminent danger of a strike or a response from Iran in relation to what happened in Damascus with the Iranian consulate attack.
Well, I don't see any, immediate ceasefire at all, because even the United States will shy away from asking Israel to have a ceasefire. And remember, there are 3 resolutions in the UN Security Council which was vetoed by the United States. They only called for a temporary ceasefire during the Ramzan fasting month. So therefore, there is no question about it, because America is still defending the Israelis' attack on Palestinian, because the bigger project has not been revealed, and only Biden administration and Netanyahu government knows the actual objective of this operation of expelling the 2.3 million Palestinians, to take total control of Gaza, have a separate canal of the alternative to the Suez Canal. All these projects have the blessing of the United States, because if you look at also Barikshit, at the American have already, at the same day of attacking the AIDS workers, we have seen that they have approved selling of arms and ammunition and 1,800 bomb of 500 pounds each, and lots of even F-15. All these weaponries have the American administration, never in the history of America, any president have approved such kind of arms sale to the Israel in a short notice. So therefore, it is strongly bonded to the American, to the Israeli lobby, the IPAC in the United States, and that is what worries Biden. Having said that, I would say that Netanyahu have been isolated internally, now the street of Israel is also calling for his resignation, and they wanted to expel him out of the government. And also the American felt that most of their partners, international partners, have been also shying away from the United States and saying that it is they lost patience with the Netanyahu continuing this war. All these factors have really complicated the American situation, and now the Israelis, under the tremendous pressure, are opening an investigation. It's not an accidental killing, by the way, and it is intentional, and that's why they have now. They put two generals on hold, and they're opening investigation to absorb the international outcry of the killing of the 7 aid workers. But the crocodile tears does not solve the suffering of the Palestinians and the starvation and the killing. And you notice more than 500 people have been killed, out of which are 13,000 kids. And every 4 hours, there's one Palestinian child has been slaughtered.
Mr.
by the Israeli
I'll just come
army.
back to you once again. Right. You're making some very important points. Let me come back to you. I'll get in Ambassador Trigunath once again. Ambassador Trigunath, Israel is now getting ready to open up more aid routes into Gaza after that tense phone conversation with the United States. Do you think Israel's approach is going to change on the ground, considering Netanyahu is facing domestic pressure at home to resign? There is also international sympathy with the Palestinians, and also a global denouncement of what has happened with aid workers.
Well, it is not only that. I mean, if you come to think of various UNGA resolutions, I mean, you have seen a large part of the world has been supportive of some kind of a de-escalation and ceasefire, but that had no consequential effect on this. But at the moment, I think that the only country that was supporting blindly and were continuing and will continue to, I mean, as far as you asked this question about whether the military supplies will continue or they will they had done so in 2006 when the war in Lebanon stopped. That perhaps could happen this time as well, because now they have lost their patience. I mean, that is something that he's not even, if he's not listening to even the Americans, who are their biggest benefactors. Secondly, this is Benjamin Netanyahu's own game, I mean, which has been exposing him, because it is because of his personal ambitions as well. And he is riding this very, I would say, a hungry lion. I mean, if he comes down, then he might be the victim himself. And that has been what providing. And this is something everybody knows that he's doing. So Americans had to do this cost-benefit analysis, that how long can they continue to get isolated from the international opinion. And that is something doing. Now, of course, he's opened this Addis crossing and Ashdod and other places. Let us see how it plays out. And that's, as Blinken said, that I mean, not literally, but he said that it'll be proof will be in the results that will follow, and how the international agencies will eventually confirm the actions taken by the Israelis to do so. Of course, domestically also,
Okay.
he's quite
Right.
today. I think in a very difficult situation, Netanyahu. So one way or the other, once he has the ultra-rightist who will abandon him. On the other hand, he has the opposition. Benny Gantz has asked for his resignation. So there is an opposition which is also getting together now. So let's see how it plays out eventually. But it looks like that the Americans are pressuring them to conclude this deal with the Hamas for ceasefire, whatever has been going on. And William Burns is traveling again to Cairo. So let's see how it plays out eventually.
Right. So Americans are clearly forcing the Israelis to agree to a ceasefire. Let me get in a word from Wael Awad at this point. Mr. Awad, what do you think is the larger worry about a kind of an attack from Iran, from Syria, as a result of the killing of the Iranian commanders, senior Iranian commanders? It is being called one of the worst attacks on Iranian leaders since the killing of Qasem Soleimani during the Trump regime. Also, this attack that took place on the Iranian consulate, it took place in Damascus. Do you think there could be repercussions from the side of Syria as well?
Absolutely. I think this is the gravest mistake that Israel have done, intentionally or unintentionally. It's a suicidal operation by attacking the consulate of Iran inside Syria, which they have attacked two countries, in fact, because that is sovereign territories of Iranian, according to international law. So therefore, you're killing Syrian civilian, you're killing a Syrian civilian, you're killing Iranian officials, and I'm sure that the Iranian will retaliate directly, as they have done against the American when they killed Soleimani. So therefore, Israel is totally preparing itself for an assault by Iran. And I think what Netanyahu is doing is bringing this region into another war. And I mean, there will be a war which nobody understands the consequences of it. Because if it is open, there will be a regional war where we will see that the Strait of Hormuz will be closed. The Red Sea is already at the risk of closing. So all this will be flaring up the situation, because now there are involvement of American installation in the region. Israelis consulate anywhere in the world is now vulnerable for any retaliation by the Iranian, and I don't see any relief from this operation. And I'm so pessimistic that this is going to really flare up, because the Iranians are outraging. And today, you remember, it is the Al-Quds Day or Jerusalem Day, where there are hundreds of people in the street in support of the Palestinian, and the anger in the Iranian street is so high. And they have already tweeted, even the Khamenei, the leader, the supreme leader of Iran, in Hebrew, that he is going to retaliate and he will make Israel pay the price for its killing of their own people. So look at the situation. The longer the war prolongs, the longer Mr. Netanyahu will stay in power. So it is for his advantage to make sure that the Syrian front, the Jordanian front, even the Egyptian and the Iranian open up, so the American have justification to continue supplying the war, the ammunition to his government, and he can remain in power. And now there is investigation inside Israel as well, Barikshat, which is also revealing that he has made $50 million out of the $250 million Hamas got from Qatar. And there's an investigation that he made $50 million kickbacks from that deal.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for the moment, but thank you very much, Ambassador Trigunayat, Wael Awad, for joining us. It's definitely a very worrying conflict in Gaza, which has been on for over 6 months now. Let's wait and see whether the situation improves on the ground. Goodbye, and thanks for watching.